Middays. We are live at the Grammy Museum of Mississippi in Cleveland, Mississippi. We're here for the Cleveland 50 Nights of Lights. What an incredible celebration that is for the great city of Cleveland. And speaking of the city, we welcome to the program now Gary Gainspoletti, Alderman at Large for the city of Cleveland, also owner of Gainspoletti Financial Services. Mr. Alderman, good to see you, sir.
Great seeing you, Gerard. We go way back. It's always fun.
We do. So I got to tell you very briefly before we kick off here that you were one of our early customers. We're so appreciative for you and your firm in embracing us as your partner in that regard. We installed one of the first local area networks in the state that you guys used at your CPA firm here in Cleveland. We came up, did a site survey, and figured out a system that we thought would work for you. Came up and installed it. I can't say it was without its challenges, but the technology was a little different in 1986 than it is
Yes,
today.
absolutely. And you know, now we do this thing like it's second nature, and it's just everything gets more complicated, and it's way over my head. So I rely on people like you to get me there.
I don't know if I could do it anymore, but certainly appreciate you seeing fit to do business with us back then. And as you know, you guys served as a fantastic reference for us, for others as well. But accounting firms were early adopters, and there was technology and applications that accounting firms could use truly to improve efficiencies of operating accounting firm. You guys knew that.
Absolutely. We actually started putting some of the paper aside.
And it's hard to believe that's the way it used to be. Right. Nobody can remember that, right?
Everything's digital. My son kind of jokes around the office about us using stones and chisels.
That's awesome. All right, so the city of Cleveland, Gary, in your role as alderman, looks like it is thriving. Just driving through here this morning and, of course, being here last year, and I've been through the area a couple of times since. You guys seem like you're kind of defying the odds and doing pretty well here.
You know, it's we're absolutely so blessed. Thank God we have a great mayor and a great city board, and we've done a lot to work with the downtown area particularly, but Cleveland in general, to create an environment where business can really thrive. Yeah. And you know, you go see 50 Nights of Lights and you go, holy joke, man, how did you do this? And there were some resolute volunteers that made this happen, and it's so amazing to think that we have right at 170 different lighted caricatures downtown. And probably the more important thing, every one of those were donated by private companies or individuals. Yeah. And then the city did a lot of infrastructure work to make it possible. And so when you take the public and private money that's in it, it's a little over $750,000. But it's become a spectacle. You know, we had one of the aldermen this morning said that Saturday was one of the biggest days he's had all year, and most of the customers were from out of town.
That's awesome.
So
they're coming, but man, when you can bring the folks into the area, because the reality is they're spending their money, and that's registering on the sales tax meter, and that's your source of revenue.
And I'm glad you said that. I went back and I looked at our sales tax and the reason I did that is because I wanted to go back before COVID, and then it includes that 2 or 2.5 year period where we had so many closures. Our general sales tax revenue that comes back to the city is up 15% since that period of time.
Awesome.
But the crazy thing is our tourism tax revenue is up 47%.
Wow.
That's almost insane.
A lot of people coming to Cleveland. We got a lot to offer and to see.
Well, they're not just coming to Cleveland. They're obviously spending the
money.
Night.
Yeah.
They're spending the
night with the tourism
and they're
tax.
Eating because that's where we get our tourism tax for.
Yeah. Well, that is awesome, and honestly, when you consider some of the other areas of the country that tourists may seek, it's brutally expensive, and it's really not here. I mean, especially when you consider the value of the attractions relative to your investment.
Right. You know, and it shouldn't go without saying, you know, we have a lot that was put into 50 Nights of Lights, but probably the most amazing thing to me, my wife and I walked down there the night of the opening, and the storefronts and the stores themselves, what the merchants have done, it's just incredible. I mean, it makes Cleveland look like a Hallmark Christmas card.
Unbelievable. Everybody seems to really get into it and buy in and wants to make it the spectacle that it is and the attraction that it is. We were talking to Hannah Aguzzi earlier, of course, with the Cleveland Bolivar County Chamber of Commerce. And I just made the comment, Gary, and the observation going through downtown, the main street there, the beautiful boulevard, every shop, every structure has got occupation. I mean, everyone's occupied. So you must be doing something right in this day and age. It doesn't matter what size town or city it is. Usually you see some vacancies, some emptiness. I didn't see that at all.
Right, and you won't. We have people begging for locations downtown. We just don't have any.
Unbelievable. Well, that's good. So we were talking about the tourism tax and of your sales tax. So I'm assuming then that from a financial perspective, it's something you guys have to worry about as the alderman. You're in good shape there.
Well, yes, I will say we are in good shape. The city of Cleveland is doing quite well. We would obviously like to be better, but it just the cost of maintaining a city now with just infrastructure is off the charts. It's so hard to do it, and I know a lot of towns around us have to be struggling because we struggle every year to balance our budget, and we do.
Sure.
Unlike the federal government, we balance our budget every year.
Have to. You can't print money.
That's right.
Yeah. Something that, Gary, I've talked about quite a bit on the show. You may have heard it, written an article a couple of weeks about it. It's been widely read and distributed, is the Public Employees Retirement System, also known as PERS.
Yes.
Which looks like it might impose a financial burden on a municipality such as Cleveland.
It is. I mean, I'm a little lost for the numbers right now, but I think it's like another 6% increase or somewhere in that range.
They're kind of leaning on 2% per year until they achieve the actuarial defined contribution rate, which right now sits at about 10% beyond the 17.4% current employer contribution rate.
Right.
2% a year. So who knows where that'll land at this point?
Well, I mean, I'm grateful that our employees at the city have this opportunity because it is a wonderful retirement plan.
No doubt.
But there's no one in the private sector like me and you and other people who maintain their own businesses who can afford to put 26% into retirement plans. That's a huge number.
I agree. Typically in the private sector, as you well know, you have many clients. We usually look at about a 20% burden rate on top of compensation.
Sure.
But in the state, in the public sector, it's 40% when you consider PERS in there.
Right. Right. I mean, it's a burden not just on the city, but on the universities, on the counties. Yeah, everybody has to swallow this pill.
Well, I know lots of mayors and city government officials across the state are concerned about this and maybe thinking about going to the state, seeing if there's some way they can assist in covering this additional burden.
Right. Well, these things are a little bit out of our control because this whole thing is actuarially determined.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And maybe some thought needs to be put into how they do the long term of that compensation because in the business I'm in, I have teachers that I saw retire 25 years ago, and their PERS, and I'm not talking bad about this, but their PERS retirement and their Social Security is substantially more than they were making when they were working.
No doubt about it. And it kind of makes you scratch your head a little bit at a minimum, right?
Yes.
What do you see on the horizon for it? We got about 30 seconds left for the city of Cleveland. Things are going great right now. You've got some new investment coming in, perhaps?
Well, I know you hadn't had a chance to ride around Cleveland, but we've worked with a marketing company for the last several years. And one of the things that we finally woke up to the fact that we have kind of become a retail mecca for the Delta. Yeah. And so we have been encouraging retail development and even reaching out beyond Cleveland. Just in the last couple of years, Tractor Supply has come here, Harbor Freight just a few months ago, McAllister's, and we continue to draw attention to these companies to show them that we're getting the public support, not just from Cleveland, but the surrounding area.
That's good.
And that retail goes back to your statement that started this conversation, and that generates sales tax revenue.
And that's your primary source of revenue.
All right.
Yeah. Gary, good to see you, sir. Appreciate you coming on, and congratulations on all the success here in the city of Cleveland.
Great. Thank you, Gerard. Always my pleasure to be with you.
Yes, sir. Folks, we're stepping aside for a break right now. The Element Well Studio has been relocated to the Grammy Museum of Mississippi in Cleveland, Mississippi for the 50 Nights